The cold Toronto rain was hitting hard against the windows of the Royal York Hotel as I stood outside the Grand Ballroom. 8 years had passed since my divorce, but tonight it felt like everything was coming back in a single moment. My name is Arjun Sharma. At 38 years old, I had built a life most people only dream about, but very few knew about it. I took a deep breath, adjusted my watch, and stepped inside. The moment I entered, the noise of laughter and old music filled my ears. Class of 2015 reunion. 25 years since we left high school, and yet the same faces were standing there, pretending their lives were perfect. And then I saw her, Sarah, my ex-wife. She was standing in the middle of a big group, wearing a bright red dress, laughing loudly as if she still owned every room she walked into. Our eyes met. For a few seconds, the entire world became silent. She gave me that familiar smirk, the same one she used to give when she wanted to hurt me. She whispered something to her friends and started walking towards me with confidence. Well, look who finally showed up, she said loudly so that people around us could hear clearly. Arjun Sharma. Still alive after all these years? Still looking broke and tired as always. A few old classmates turned their heads. Some smiled awkwardly, others looked curious. Sarah stepped even closer, her voice full of fake pity and real cruelty. 8 years, Arjun. 8 long years and you're still the same failure I left behind. Tell me, are you still fixing laptops for little money or have you finally given up? And where is your partner? Don't tell me you came alone again like a loser. The people around us started paying more attention. Sarah was enjoying the moment. She always loved an audience. She turned towards the growing crowd and said even louder, "Everyone listen. This is my ex-husband. The man who promised me the world but couldn't even pay the rent on time. Look at him now, still alone, still nothing. Do you even have a decent job, Arjun? Or are you still dreaming like before?" Some people laughed. Sarah's eyes were shining with satisfaction. She thought she had won again. But I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel small. I simply looked at her calmly and said, "I'm not alone anymore, Sarah." She rolled her eyes dramatically. "Oh really? Then where is this so-called wife of yours? Is she imaginary like all your other dreams? Or is she too embarrassed to show her face with you?" The laughter in the room grew louder. Sarah was performing now, enjoying every second of my supposed humiliation. I checked my watch quietly and replied, "She is on her way. She had an important meeting." Sarah threw her head back and laughed loudly. Still telling the same lies after 8 years? How pathetic. Next you will tell us you are a rich man too, right? Stop dreaming, Arjun. Some people never change. She had no idea. She had no idea that in the next few minutes her entire world was going to turn upside down. She had no idea that the man she was humiliating in front of everyone was now a billionaire. And she had no idea that my real wife was about to walk through those doors and change everything. But the real story was much deeper than this moment. The real pain, the real struggle, and the real truth started 8 years ago when Sarah left me broken with nothing but our 6-year-old daughter and a mountain of debt. And tonight, all of those secrets were finally going to come out. As Sarah stood there laughing at me in front of everyone, I remained completely calm. Her words were sharp, but they no longer had the power to cut me like they used to. 8 years ago, when she left me, those same words would have destroyed me. But today was different. Today I was no longer the broken man she remembered. I looked straight into her eyes and said softly, "Sarah, you can laugh as much as you want, but the truth is coming soon." She crossed her arms and raised her eyebrows in that mocking way I knew so well. Truth? What truth? That you're still a nobody living in a small apartment? Please, Arjun, stop embarrassing yourself in front of all these people. We all know you never amounted to anything. The crowd was now fully focused on us. Old classmates who had once pitted me were watching with curiosity. Sarah was loving every second of it. She always felt powerful when she could put me down. But then something shifted in the air. I took a slow breath and started speaking in a steady voice. 8 years ago, when you left me, I had nothing. You took our daughter, took whatever little savings we had, and told me I would die alone as a failure. I remember that night like it was yesterday. You slammed the door and said, "A man like you doesn't deserve a family." Those words broke me completely. Sarah's smile became a little uncomfortable. She hadn't expected me to talk about the past so openly. I continued. For the first 2 years after you left, I worked 3 jobs. I slept only 4 hours a day. I ate 1 meal so I could send money for our daughter's school. Everyone told me to give up. But I didn't. I started a small tech repair shop in my garage. Then I took a huge risk. I invested every single dollar I had into a cybersecurity startup that nobody believed in. Sarah laughed again, but this time it sounded slightly forced. Cybersecurity? You? Don't make me laugh, Arjun. You could barely fix a laptop properly. I smiled gently. That company is now valued at $1.4 billion. I owned 68% of it. The entire ballroom went dead silent. Sarah's face changed. The confident smile disappeared. Her eyes widened in shock, but she quickly tried to hide it. You're lying, she said, her voice shaking a little. If you were really so rich, where is your fancy car? Where is your big house? Stop making up stories to impress people. I didn't argue with her. I simply took out my phone, opened a news article, and turned the screen towards her. The headline was clear. Toronto-based Sharma Cyberguard acquires major European contract worth $430 million. Sarah stared at the phone. Her hands started trembling slightly. The people around us began whispering. Someone even said, "Wait, is that true?" But before Sarah could recover, the doors of the ballroom opened. A beautiful woman in an elegant black dress walked in. Her presence was calm but powerful. It was Priya, my wife. She walked straight towards me without looking at anyone else. When she reached me, she gently held my hand and kissed my cheek softly. "Sorry I'm late, Jan," she said warmly. The meeting ran over. Sarah stood frozen. Her face had gone pale. The woman she had just mocked me for inventing was now standing right in front of her, confident, successful, and clearly deeply in love with me. Priya looked at Sarah and said in a polite but firm voice, "You must be Sarah. I've heard a lot about you." The tension in the room was now thick enough to cut with a knife. But this was only the beginning. Because Sarah still didn't know the full truth, about the company, about our daughter, and about the biggest secret I had kept for 8 long years. And that secret was about to destroy her completely. Priya's hand felt warm in mine as we stood together in front of Sarah. The entire ballroom had gone strangely quiet. People who were laughing at me just a few minutes ago were now staring in complete shock. Sarah's face had turned pale, her red lipstick looking too bright against her suddenly colorless skin. She tried to recover quickly. "So, you really got married again," she said, forcing a laugh. "Congratulations. But let's be honest, how long will this one last? You couldn't even keep our marriage together." Priya smiled calmly, but there was steel in her voice. "Actually, we've been married for 5 years now. And unlike you, I didn't marry Arjun for money or status. I married him because I saw the man he truly is." Sarah's eyes narrowed. She was losing control of the situation and she hated it. 5 years? How convenient. And where was this great man when I was struggling to raise our daughter alone? That was the moment I felt the old pain rise up again. Our daughter. I looked at Sarah and said quietly, "You never struggled alone, Sarah. I sent money every single month, even when I was sleeping in my office because I couldn't afford rent. But you never told our daughter the truth. You told her I abandoned her." Sarah opened her mouth but no words came out. Priya gently squeezed my hand and continued, "We have full custody now, Sarah. Your daughter has been living with us for the past 2 years. She's doing incredibly well, top of her class, learning classical music, and finally happy." The shock on Sarah's face was real this time. Her hands started shaking. "That's impossible. You can't take my daughter away from me." I replied softly, "We didn't take her. She chose to come. She got tired of the lies." The atmosphere in the ballroom had completely changed. No one was laughing anymore. Old classmates were whispering, some even looking at Sarah with disappointment. But Sarah wasn't done yet. Her pride was too big. She pointed at me with a trembling finger and said bitterly, "Even if all this is true, you'll always be the same weak man I left. A billionaire. Please. I don't believe it for a second." I looked at her for a long moment. Then I said the words that would break her completely. "Sarah, the company I built, the one you're calling a lie, Your current boyfriend works there as a junior accountant. He has been trying to get a promotion for 2 years. Should I tell everyone how I rejected his promotion last month?" Sarah froze. Her eyes filled with pure fear. She had no idea I knew about her new relationship. She had no idea how deep my silence had actually gone. For 8 years I had watched from afar, not with anger, but with patience. I had rebuilt my life while she kept destroying hers. Priya leaned closer to me and whispered, "Let's go home, Jan. She has already lost." But as we turned to leave, Sarah's voice cracked behind us. "Arjun, wait." Her voice was no longer loud and confident. It was broken, desperate. I stopped but didn't turn around immediately. The entire room was waiting to see what would happen next. This was the moment Sarah finally understood that the man she had humiliated for years had become someone she could never reach again. And the biggest truth was still waiting to come out. I stopped in the middle of the ballroom but didn't turn around immediately. Sarah's broken voice echoed behind me. "Arjun, please wait." The entire room had gone completely silent. No one was pretending to talk anymore. Everyone was watching this moment like a live drama. Sarah, who had spent the last 20 minutes humiliating me, was now begging me to stop. I slowly turned around. Sarah's eyes were filled with tears. Her perfect makeup was starting to smudge. The confident woman who had walked in like a queen now looked small and scared. "You knew," she whispered. "You knew about everything, about my boyfriend, about the company, and you never said anything." I looked at her calmly. "I knew, Sarah. I have known for a long time. But I chose silence. Not because I was weak, but because I was tired of fighting for someone who never valued me." Tears started falling from her eyes. She took one shaky step forward. "I was wrong, Arjun. I thought you would always stay the same. I thought I made the right choice by leaving you. But now, look at you. And look at me." Her voice broke completely. "I lost everything. My job, my savings, even our daughter's respect. And you became a billionaire in silence. How did you do it? How did you become this person without me?" Priya stood quietly beside me, holding my hand. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Her presence itself was the biggest answer. I took a deep breath and spoke from the heart. "After you left me, I was completely destroyed. For months I couldn't sleep. I kept asking myself what was wrong with me. Then one night, I made a promise to myself. I would never let anyone's opinion define my worth again. I worked like a madman. I failed many times. I cried alone many nights. But I never stopped. Every single sacrifice I made was for myself and for our daughter's future." Sarah was crying openly now. "I am sorry, Arjun. I was selfish. I was greedy. I thought money and status would make me happy. But I destroyed our family in the process." The words I said next were the heaviest. "I forgave you a long time ago, Sarah. Not for you, but for me. I didn't want to carry your betrayal for the rest of my life. But forgiveness doesn't mean I will forget. And it doesn't mean I will trust you again." Sarah looked at Priya with wet eyes. "You are very lucky. I hope you know what you have." Priya replied gently but firmly, "I know exactly what I have. A man who builds quietly, loves deeply, and never needs to prove himself to anyone." At that moment, I felt something heavy finally lift from my chest. 8 years of pain, anger, and silence were coming to an end in this grand ballroom in Toronto. But before we could leave, Sarah asked one last painful question. Can I meet our daughter? Just once." The entire room waited for my answer. This was the most difficult moment of the night, because some wounds take more than money or success to heal. I looked at Sarah for a long moment. The woman who once broke me completely was now standing broken in front of everyone. Her mascara was running, her shoulders were shaking, and for the first time in 8 years, I saw real regret in her eyes. I spoke softly. "Sarah, our daughter is happy now. She is doing well in school, she has friends, and she finally feels safe. Meeting you right now might disturb her peace. I will not take that risk. But I will talk to her. If she wants to meet you in the future, I will not stop her. That decision will be hers." Sarah nodded slowly, tears falling freely. She looked small, defeated, alone. As Priya and I started walking towards the exit, I turned back one last time and said, "I hope you find peace, Sarah. Not for me, but for yourself. Stop looking for happiness in other people's failures. Start building your own life instead of destroying others." We walked out of the ballroom hand in hand. The cold Toronto air hit us as soon as we stepped outside. Priya leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "You did well tonight. You showed strength without cruelty." In the car, as we drove towards our home in Richmond Hill, I finally felt free. 8 years of silent pain had come to an end. Not with revenge, but with truth. The next morning, I sat on our backyard porch with a cup of coffee. My daughter, now 14 years old, came and sat beside me. She looked so much like her mother, but her heart was completely different. "Daddy," she said quietly, "I heard what happened last night. Are you okay?" I smiled and pulled her close. "I'm more than okay, Beta. I'm finally at peace." She hugged me tightly. "I'm proud of you. And I'm glad I have you and Mama." That moment, sitting with my daughter in the morning sunlight, with my wife cooking breakfast inside, was worth more than all the billions in my bank account. Moral of the story: real success is not loud. It is quiet. It is built in silence, in pain, in sleepless nights when no one is watching. The people who laugh at you today may cry tomorrow when they see what you have become. Never stop building. Never stop growing. And never let anyone's opinion of you become your reality. If you are someone who has been underestimated, humiliated, or left behind, know this: your time is coming. Keep working in silence. Your comeback will be so loud that the whole world will hear it.